Hey everyone, it's Max, and I am super excited because today I am joined by Dave Bossert. Yes, the man is here with me. He is the author of Oswald The Lucky Rabbit, The Search for the Lost Disney Cartoons, and you've also been with the Disney company. You were there for how many years?
I was there for 32 years. I'm a veteran. I left last July, and I'm writing full-time.
So cool. And Oswald The Lucky Rabbit, The Search for the Lost Disney Cartoons is basically going to be the book on Oswald, right?
It's the book. It aggregates everything we currently know about Oswald the Lucky Rabbit and has so much great artwork that people have never seen before. I'm excited.
Cool. It's so cool. And so it comes out in August, right?
Yeah, it doesn't release until the end of August, but they're going to do a special pre-release at the D23 Expo in July. But there's only a limited quantity of books. I want to make sure everybody knows that. It's like, once those books are sold out at the Expo.
Has that been announced? Or you heard it here first?
Maybe. I don't know. I know that I have a scheduled book signing. And I'm also doing a presentation as part of the Expo.
That has not been announced. So, there you go.
You heard it here first.
So what we're going to do today is we're going to talk a little bit about Oswald, Disney history. You guys submitted some really amazing questions, so we're going to get to a bunch of those because you guys asked really great questions.
Yeah.
And so what I think we'll do first is just we're actually here at Cal Arts. Cal Arts was really nice to let us use their space to make this video. And Cal Arts actually has really big significance in Disney history.
It really does. What was great was Max agreed to come up here to Valencia, California and do this interview. And we're in this beautiful, the Wild Beast theater space at Cal Arts. And Cal Arts is really the vision of Walt Disney. Walt Disney helped to bail out the Chouinard Art Institute, but had this vision of bringing all the arts disciplines together under one roof. You got film and animation, art and design, dance, theater, critical studies, which is literature, writing, poetry, and bring it all together under one roof up here. And there's just an illustrious alumni that has come out of this place. I mean, people like, Tim Burton and Brad Bird and Pete Docter and just all these really great animation luminaries that came through here. And it's amazing when you start to think about it.
Yeah, they've done some things.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
It's incredible.
Yeah. And so Joe Ranft, who was a great story artist, came out of here. John Lasseter, Henry Selick, who did Nightmare Before Christmas, James and the Giant Peach, and Coraline, and has done so many other things. So it's really a wonderful place, and I kind of felt like there was this great Disney connection. And even though Walt died in 1966, this campus didn't open until 1970, and it was because of Walt's brother, Roy O. Disney, who helped complete that vision and get this school opened, and that was really great. Another interesting fact for everybody is that the premiere of Mary Poppins in 1964 was the first fundraiser for Cal Arts. Wow. How's that? Hey, I'm a fountain of information, Max.
Really
I'm a fountain of information.
That's amazing.
Anyway, so there's the background and why we're here, and this is a terrific space, and I'm glad Cal Arts let us use it. But full disclosure, I am a trustee of the school, so it just took an email, and everybody was like, "Yeah, let's do that."
That's all it took. As you guys know that have been watching my videos and following me on Instagram, so we're having this black and white day in celebration of Oswald and your book. And classic Disney cartoons at California Adventure on June 3rd. Show up wearing your best black and white. I'll be there. Dave will be there.
Yeah.
It's really exciting. So that's how we're kind of celebrating this. And you guys have just amazing questions. But I think what would be good is that for those people that don't know who Oswald is, just could you give like a brief summary on who Oswald the Lucky Rabbit is and how he came to be and you know the story behind him?
Yeah. So real simply, you know, most people may not know this, but prior to Oswald the Lucky Rabbit, Walt and his brother Roy O were doing a series called the Alice Comedies. And the Alice Comedies from 1924 to 1927 were what they call one-reelers. And a one-reeler is like a 10 or 12-minute film, okay? And these were comedies that would show in the theaters. They were silent. They'd show in theaters before the feature presentations. And towards the end of the series, the popularity of those were starting to wane. They had sort of a moderate popularity when they were being made. But what Walt had done that was a little different was, at the time, the Fleischer Brothers studio out of New York was the big competitor to Disney. And they were doing a series called Out of the Inkwell with Coco the Clown. And Out of the Inkwell put an animated character into a live-action world. And what Walt said was, let's do a series where we take a live-action girl and put her into an animated world. So he kind of flipped on that and made it different, and it was kind of unique when they first came out. And towards the end of the series, the live-action part of it, the live-action little girl and the live-action opening became less and less important, and the animation was taking up more and more of the time. And Walt felt like the series had run its course, and his distributor and producer, Charles Mintz of Winkler Productions, they were talking with Universal, and Universal wanted a completely animated series, but they wanted something different because the popularity at the time of just full animated cartoons in theaters was like Felix the Cat and Aesop's Fables and those kinds of things. But and in the Alice comedies towards the end, Alice's animated friend was Julius the cat. So there was lots of cats, okay? And so they wanted something different. And so that's why they went with a rabbit. A rabbit was distinctly different with the elongated ears. And that's really kind of how the Oswalds got going. And Walt and Ub helped design that character, Oswald, and Walt got the contract to do the first 26.
Amazing. So when Walt got that contract for the 26, he created the Oswald cartoons then?
Yeah. And so when he got the when Winkler Productions and Charles Mintz signed their contract with Universal, they then gave Walt a contract. Right?
So Walt was an independent contractor.
He was a contractor
for Universal.
Exactly, more or less, you know. And so what wound up happening there was that they were turning out these cartoons every 2.5 weeks, which is really astounding when you think about it. These 5-minute shorts, 5-6-minute shorts were being done in 2.5 weeks, out the door. So they were under a tremendous amount of pressure. They weren't getting a lot of money, and Walt was constantly pushing his staff and trying to get more money out of Charles Mintz and Winkler Productions for what he was doing. But they did the first cartoon, which was Poor Papa, and it was rejected. Universal and Mintz, they felt that Oswald looked too old. They felt like there was too much cycling of the animation. There was if you know anything about Poor Papa, he's essentially having children, and they're playing off of the notion that rabbits multiply exponentially. And so he's got dozens of these little rabbits running around, and they felt like Oswald looked a little too old. They felt like he wasn't differentiated enough from all the other characters that were running around in there. And so they had some certain criticism. One of the things they criticized was wanting to have Oswald have a monocle.
Whoa.
Yeah, and
Monocle.
a monocle,
Okay.
and so that's kind of like that counters. You know, you're saying Oswald looks too old, now you want to give him a monocle. So anyway, Walt actually responded to the criticisms. He said he wasn't really that happy with the first cartoon. He was going to improve on the second one, and he ended his note to them by saying, "But no monocle." Okay, and so they wound up making Trolley Trouble. And Trolley Trouble went out to the theaters. First Oswald were released to the theaters, and it was an instant hit. And everybody loved Oswald. And so he continued making the Oswald cartoons as part of his contract. But his relationship with Charles Mintz was always seemed a little bit strained. And there was always, Mintz was always criticizing Walt. Walt was always pushing back, trying to get more money. And towards the end of that series, Mintz felt like he didn't need Walt to make those Oswald cartoons. And when Walt went to New York to negotiate the contract for the second 26, he didn't know it, but Mintz's brother-in-law, George Winkler, Margaret Winkler's brother, was in Los Angeles and signed away a lot of Walt's artists to come work at the new Oswald cartoon studio that Mintz was setting up. So there was a lot of intrigue going on there, but Walt did not realize, but he didn't own the character. And so when you think about this, and this is really, I think this is something that's really important to the Disney history, is that because of that devastating setback where he didn't get the second contract, he lost the contract to Oswald, Walt said he was never going to work for anyone ever again, and that he was going to, own his characters. And that prompted him and Ub to create Mickey Mouse.
It's incredible.
And it is kind of like, when you think about it, like, what happens if Mintz was a really great guy and paid Walt a lot of money and gave him the second 26? Would they ever have created Mickey Mouse? That's the big question mark.
Would Walt have just stayed on? I've got my nice salary. I can be comfortable.
I know. And I have to tell you, Mintz got the second contract, but then Universal pulled it from Mintz and gave it to Walter Lantz. Now, Walter Lantz is famous for Woody Woodpecker and Chilly Willy and those characters, and he was a contract player for Universal.
Wow.
And so, he would wind up completing out the Oswald cartoons, which they were making out until about 1938.
Okay.
But once Mickey hit the screens and the first sound cartoon, that was it. He blew the doors off of the competition, and it was like Mickey Mania right from the get-go. So.
I mean, of course.
I know.
It's just incredible, from that devastation was born.
But I have to tell you, I think when you look at this, it's a great example of, and you can look throughout history. Thomas Edison, went through how many different elements before he found tungsten for the light bulb. Setbacks can be devastating to people, and they can ball up in the corner and just, grind their teeth and complain the rest of their lives about a loss. Or they can learn something from that devastating loss, and they can move forward and do something very positive. And this was a great example of somebody having a devastating loss and turning that loss into a triumphant success.
I think it's a lesson for all of us. It really is.
Absolutely.
It really is.
But it begs the question, though: if you never created Mickey, would he have stayed a contract player? And what would the Walt Disney Company look like now? Would there be a Walt Disney
There might
Company?
not be.
Well, and that's really a good question to ask, because when you look at Walt's main competition was the Fleischer Brothers out of New York. And the Fleischer Brothers did Betty Boop and Popeye, and they had all the, Coco the Clown. They had all of these great cartoon series, and they even did some feature films, but they've disappeared.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is kind of interesting to think about that and wonder the what ifs. And I'm just glad that he created Mickey Mouse.
Me too.
Yeah, because
I wouldn't be here.
Well, and you know something, Mickey really, when he created Mickey Mouse was the seeds that were planted that grew this enormous family entertainment company. I mean, really, out of and he even said that, you know, the famous quote, "It all started with a mouse." It is so true. Yeah. So let's do questions.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
This is from Mary, and she said, "How difficult was it to research into Oswald and his history?"
Great question. It really is, because, you know, when Walt lost Oswald, you know, he was gone for decades, and it wasn't until 2005 when Walt's daughter Diane Disney, in a conversation with Bob Iger, they talked about repatriating those original 26 Walt Disney cartoons back to Disney. And so there's a really interesting story in the book about how that came about. Cool. And also the connection with Al Michaels, the sportscaster, and the fact that Monday Night Football was moving to NBC, and Al Michaels was part of the ESPN team and wanted to move with his group over to NBC Universal, but Disney needed to release him from his contract. And there was some behind the scenes things going on, and to Bob Iger's credit, he picked up the phone and called his counterpart at Universal and said, "Hey, we'll release Al from his contract, but we'd like those 26 Disney-directed Oswalds back." And so they made this kind of fun deal that went out in the press and made some headlines that Al Michaels was traded for a rabbit, but it wasn't so much. You know, that really isn't what exactly happened, but that was part of it. And I think, you know, I think it's a great story. And Al Michaels is a bit of a hero to be associated with getting those Oswald cartoons back to Disney.
I love it.
And so's Bob Iger.
Yes.
You know? Yeah.
And Walt Disney's daughter.
Yeah, and Diane, absolutely. You know, so it was
That's really great. I love that story.
You know, sort of an aligning of the planets, so to speak. And then, so once those came back, you know, a lot of the background information on Oswald was just scattered all over the place. And, you know, undertaking a project like this, you can't do by yourself. You know, and I have to give a shout out to my archival editor, David Gerstein, who worked with me on the project, and also Jerry Beck and Didier Gers, and J.B. Kaufman and Tommy Jose Stathers. These are all people I sent the manuscript out to, who are, you know, really, they're known historians and know the early films, and I sent the manuscript out to them to review, and I got great notes back from people. So that, you know, this is kind of a team effort to get these types of projects done, and especially with stuff far flung. There was things, you know, we found posters at auction houses. We found some stuff at the Disney Family Museum. The Disney had some stuff. There was a bunch of stuff at Universal. It was kind of, you know, sort of scattered about
everywhere.
And even some collectors stepped up with some really interesting stuff, including one image, one photo of Walt Disney that's about from 1926, 1927, that has never been seen before. It was like somebody's snapshot, and this collector had found it someplace, and so he gave us permission to use it in the book. So there's a unique photo of Walt in there that the Disney company doesn't even own. They don't have it.
That's amazing.
I know, isn't that crazy?
So the first time you see that photo is in the book.
It is.
That's so cool.
Yeah. Although it may show up on our social media feed, maybe.
That's so cool.
I know,
That's
isn't that
amazing.
neat? Yeah.
Wow.
So.
Cool. All right, here's a little sneak peek of the photo, but we're cropping it, so you're not going to see the whole thing.
That's right.
You got to get the book to see the whole photo.
Yeah, we'll give you a little bit of it.
Next question comes from Rodrigo, and Rodrigo asks, other than Hortensia, did Oswald have any other love interests?
Yes, you know, I kind of laughingly say Oswald was a bit of a philanderer there.
Well, he's a bunny.
He's a bunny, you know, he's a rabbit, right? But no, in the 26 cartoons, there's two girlfriends.
Whoa!
There's a cat girlfriend who has been dubbed Hortensia, and that name comes from the epic Mickey games that they featured Oswald in, right?
Yeah.
And then the other girlfriend is a rabbit named Fanny.
Fanny.
Yeah, Fanny Cottontail. So there's two girls there, two girlfriends, and we talk a little bit about that in the book.
Cool.
Yeah.
Wow. So which one would Oswald have picked?
I don't know. It was kind of, there's some really neat characters in these cartoons. There's even a Peg-Leg Pete character that is a bear instead of a cat. So when Walt did the Mickey cartoons, Peg-Leg Pete became a cat. So there's some similarities, but they were both villains and all of that. But it was a little bit looser back then in the 20s as far as borrowing and sort of things looking a little bit like Julius the cat started to look a little bit like Felix the cat. But if it happened today, there'd probably be lawsuits flying. But back in those days, it was a little bit wink and a nod to one another. So.
Well, Oswald, looks like Mickey in a lot of ways.
In construction.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It really does.
Sure. Yeah.
So you could see, you see the two of them in each other. So we see Oswald with blue pants or blue shorts, and Melissa actually asked, my son wants to know who gave him the blue pants.
That's a great question. Melissa's son.
Yeah.
That's a good, astute question. It's interesting. The Oswald cartoons are black and white cartoons.
Yeah.
They're not in color. But some of the posters were in color. And there's actually one poster where he's wearing red swimming trunks. I think that when they reacquired Oswald, I think there was a conscious decision. This is just my own personal opinion. There's a conscious decision that you wouldn't want to give Oswald red shorts because it would become confusing, with Mickey. So I think choosing the blue shorts as a contrast to the red shorts was really a great choice that they made, and it really helps to differentiate Oswald from Mickey and the gang.
So that's a recent decision that you think?
Yeah, I think it was.
You think,
yeah,
especially because he was wearing red back in.
Well, he had that one poster, but that was a color poster, and I think that again, you want these characters to differentiate from one another. You don't want them to blend or get people get confused. So I think again, I personally like the blue shorts. I think it's kind of, and it's an Oswald blue. There's a specific Oswald blue color, and the walk around character at the parks has those blue shorts on. And again, he's a black and white character with blue shorts. It's kind of neat.
I love it. It's so classic. I remember when he made his debut. It was really exciting. And it's a character that we don't really know much about, but it was just exciting to see that piece of Disney history. It represented in the parks. A lot of people asked if Oswald will have a bigger presence in the parks. Will there be future Oswald cartoons?
Those are all great questions, but I'm not going to speak for the company. The company does so many great things with their character franchises. So I think it's going to be driven by the audience. It's going to be driven by the guests. And I think that there's so many possibilities there. And that's really going to be the company's choice to decide what they want to do and how they want to handle it. And I think whatever they do is going to be fantastic. It's going to be great quality, and it's going to be a lot of fun.
I love Oswald. So make Oswald popular. Just we want him back.